Hi everyone, this is Freddie with Superbike Unlimited, and we're finally bringing you an update on the Yamaha R9 project. I'm sorry it's taken so long. We've had a lot going on around here, but we're moving on to the good stuff now. So the next step, and I think this is going to be one of the things that most people are going to do really early on buying a motorcycle like that, is putting a nice exhaust system on it. We're going to put a really good air filter on there, of course, a Sprint F1-85 air filter. And then we're gonna flash the ECU and put it on the dyno. So essentially the first kind of like stage one sort of power upgrade, which will be really interesting to see sort of like what our before and after is. And of course, we've got a bunch of stuff after that. And what we're gonna be using for the exhaust, we actually have this Aero World Supersport exhaust. This is literally the same system that's been at the very top of the podium in the World Supersport Championship. So we know we've got some pedigree here and something that can perform really well. And it's gonna work really well down the road once we start getting into the engine and trying to squeeze a little more horsepower. We're gonna have an exhaust system that can basically sustain the power that we're gonna have and properly support it. So we're gonna get right into it. Pretty nice. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Like that. So one of the big things that's going to differentiate this exhaust from the something like a standard full system, and honestly, we have two different versions of this exhaust. One of them is essentially exactly the same, but it does not have these. These are basically in case we go to the electronics package that we fully intend to go to, that allows per cylinder lambdas. And of course, that's something, if you've watched any of our prior projects, we know that tuning each cylinder individually, there can be some really large variance in between each cylinder, just the amount of air that's going into each one. So this is vital to not only make the engine as healthy as possible, but also for maximum power.
So one of the tricks is you definitely want to leave everything loose before you tighten anything up. So hand tighten all the stuff, and then you can kind of start torquing things down from there. But otherwise, it typically will not go together very well.
All right, moving on, we've got the exhaust fitted. We have not test fired this yet. I'm gonna wait until everything's done so we can hear the sound together. But next step, we're actually gonna be installing a Sprint F1-85 air filter. And it's just a simple thing. We're gonna go away from the stock one, which is really, you know, not only designed to keep the airbox clean, but also keeps in mind noise restriction and all this other stuff that we're not worried about. We wanna make maximum horsepower, so we're gonna put this thing in to try to achieve exactly that goal. So we're gonna swap that in, put everything back together, see what it sounds like, and I'm actually just gonna put it right back on the dyno without touching a single thing on the ECU, just to see what happens. Let's see if we can pick up horsepower by simply bolting this stuff on. And then of course from there, we're gonna flash the ECU, and naturally we'll expect to see a power gain from there. So all that's coming up. So while we're at it, I wasn't planning on doing this right now, but it's kind of a sensible time to do it since we're moving the fuel tank. A common complaint with the R9, and anyone that races one of these or regularly does service or goes to the track is gonna know right away that the stock fuel tank doesn't hinge. You actually have to just take the whole thing off. It's kind of a pain in the ass. So it's just one of those little compromises that's on this bike. But fortunately we have a kit, and we'll put a link in the description for this video where you can buy these. But this is basically a copy of the factory race part, but it allows you to actually hinge. So essentially this will bolt where the stock one did, and now we have a pivot, just like what you would find on a lot of other race style bikes, where now the fuel tank can essentially hinge on this bracket. All right, we've got this thing all buttoned up. Stu's done a fine job, and he has already pointed out an important comment about this adapter, this pivot bracket thing. Can't use a stock seat with that. So do not put this on a street bike. This is gonna be for track or race use only. So, but that's what we're here for. We're here to find out these hard things so you don't have to. Next, we're gonna fire this thing up and see what it sounds like. Pretty nice.
Yeah,
it's definitely better.
Sounds awesome. It does.
All right, next we're gonna put it on the dyno, and the fun stuff happens. Nothing to it. Nice and easy. I think I'm gonna have to flash it.
Oh, really?
It won't let me turn the traction control off because there's a check engine light. So, yeah. That's annoying.
Yeah.
I wanted to know just what that would do, you know? All right, so a little bit of a change of plans. We're not gonna do really a baseline pull because the bike more or less went into like a limp mode with the exhaust removed and having not been flashed. So what we're gonna do is just go ahead and put on my like starting point flash and just run it that way. So we may revisit that at some point where I could just build a file where all that stuff's disabled, but it's more or less a stock ECU. But given that we're short on time today and we've already pushed this project and kept you guys waiting long enough, we're just gonna jump right to the good stuff. And realistically, let's be honest, if you're putting on an exhaust system like this with an air filter like this, you're probably gonna send your ECU to us or wherever to have it properly tuned, and as you should, because there's a lot of power on the table there. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into that. 117 point something.
Nice. Did you stock?
109.
Oh, wow. That's pretty dope, dude.
Yeah, it's a decent jump. Yeah. And that's really just, that's my first ever R9 flash, so there's more there.
Yeah.
That was me just guessing on my computer, honestly.
Kind of fucking around. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's close, honestly, you'd be surprised. Like, yeah. It's a lot closer than I thought it would be. Best one was, yeah, that one. I mean, the fueling is pretty goddamn close. That was my target, is the red dotted line, and I'm only, yeah. So,
Wow.
but yeah, pretty good. Compared to, that's what it looked like stock.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't measure the fuel then, but yeah, I mean, that's a pretty distinctive increase.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, man. All right, so we spent some time on the dyno refining the mapping and ECU tuning for the new exhaust and air filter, and I'm pretty pleased with the results. What we've got is a net gain of about 9 horsepower. That's just peak versus peak, and in areas, you know, in the higher RPM area, sort of 10,000 plus, we have gains as much as 15 plus horsepower. So that's going to be a pretty distinctive difference. We've gained power throughout the entire rev range. I'm pretty thrilled with that. I think that this motorcycle will be a lot of fun to ride in the spec compared to the way it was before. So really happy with that. Unfortunately, this is the development that we're going to be using for customer stuff. So we've already got this flash live, and if you've got that exhaust, we'll have a map for you. So we're just going to be building that library as fast as we can based on what comes in. But yeah, really happy with this. Next steps for this bike, we're going to be doing some upgrades to try to squeeze more power, not just on the engine side, but also on the intake side. A few other things I don't want to go into too much detail, and a bunch of really cool chassis stuff's coming up. So all that's going to be in the next video, which is going to come a lot faster than this second update. We're going to be coming out at you much quicker than we have previously. So if you want to see more and learn about the R9 and kind of understand what its progression can be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and we'll see you next time.